For those with good taste.
Welcome back, Tasties and Tastettes, and this is a movie review.
Wait, is that the real start? Okay. We are Venom.
We are Venom.
Venom. Perfect.
We got to work on that.
Yeah, we're talking Venom: The Last Dance on the pod here this week. A divisive movie in the group. One that I never foresaw coming, if I'm completely honest, guys. You surprised the fuck out of me.
I didn't
yesterday.
foresee the polarity we were going to have on this either.
Well, and I don't know if I want to get into my bone to pick with Dave Ray, like at this part of the podcast, or if I want to hold it. Do you want to do trivia first?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some trivia first. There's not really much on this movie. First of all, did you guys know that Tom Holland was in discussion to potentially reprise his role as Spider-Man in future Venom roles? Well, Venom sequels?
Huh.
Well, I mean, it's all the same universe, so yeah, I mean,
It's not.
it is.
We'll get there. It's not. We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there.
Can't wait.
We're gonna get there. This is how you'll have to remind me though. So Kelly Markle, Megan, she was hired to direct the third film because originally they wanted to get Andy Serkis back in there, who did
The second one.
the second one.
Yeah.
But he unfortunately was attached to what I believe to be the movie Animal Farm, which I just didn't know was. Did you guys know was getting a movie?
No.
No. Was he going to play John Belushi?
Yeah. Yes. Well,
He's a bit old for it now, actually.
that's Animal House.
Oh.
No. You know the
Okay.
game Animal Farm.
Okay.
I didn't know they were making
No,
a
A
movie.
game? What
A
game
book.
are you talking about now?
Isn't
That's a
there a
book.
game?
No, you're talking about Farmville.
No, isn't there like a game that like people were going like crazy for on the Switch? Animal something. I thought it was
Animal
Animal
Crossing.
Farm.
You guys are both fucked up.
Damn,
right now.
we're all on different.
Yeah, Animal Farm
Okay.
is that book that was about like Soviet Russia, like everybody was communism or some shit, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Which I
Okay.
just don't know. Like, we're making a movie, dude. Do people like we had to read that in school? I don't know if you guys did, but I definitely
didn't
had to
have
read
to.
it in school.
I think it might have been like a summer reading optional.
Yeah. Okay. But weird. This was the second Marvel role for Chiwetel Ejiofor. Which is probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Who played the military man in this? Do you remember the other role that he has held at
Yeah,
Marvel?
Mordo.
Yep. Okay.
It
so
was also the second role for Risa Fons.
Yep. So we had two people who have held multiple roles within Marvel.
Well, and Risa Fons was another like Spider-Verse.
Well, yeah, and
movie.
it's kind of like this is where it kind of I feel like goes to my point of like the same universe thing. We'll get to that. We'll get to it. Here's an interesting one, guys, because it plays into the movie. And do you guys remember the extended trailer for this movie? How much do they show in it? Do they show like the
Let me ask, all I remember is the horse.
Same.
Well, okay, that'll play into this really quickly, but I guess I had a question off of this. So symbiotes with incompatible hosts end up killing the hosts, right? But Venom proves surprisingly compatible with a horse in the trailer, as horses are known to be resilient to snake venom.
Well, I think yeah, he kills him if he stays in them too long, but he was always able to kind of go in and out, transfer to and from.
Like jumping off of others.
Yeah.
Now, how long can they be attached before they kill something? Because that was like a question I had watching this. Because I don't know what's in the trailer. So this will be like a brief 3, 2, 1. Jump like 10 seconds forward. Them just latching onto a bunch of people. I was like, the whole thing was they were struggling to find people compatible with.
And then all of a sudden, everybody was compatible.
Yeah, like they were just all horse for fucking symbiotes.
Well, yeah, I don't because none of it was like permanent, like attachment symbiotic. It was all
Yeah,
very
I just
temporary.
wonder where you start to degrade, you know?
Yeah, where's that line drawn?
Owen Wilson was approached for an unspecific role before Chiwetel Ejiofor was cast, which would lead you to believe that he was supposed to be that role.
Say it again. Who?
Oh, you're gonna keep making me say this?
Yeah. No. The other guy.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yeah.
Before he was cast, it was rumored that Owen Wilson had been approached
So like TVA Owen Wilson.
Oh, well, I don't think he's playing the same character, but like that would be Owen Wilson. Yeah.
Okay.
What would you guys rather? I think that role goes completely different with Owen Wilson in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This movie
Yeah.
would have actually been funny.
Well, and I don't think you just get like the like intense. You killed 3 of my men. Like
Yeah.
if you get the Owen Wilson trying to be like all tough guy, I don't
Unless
think
he
it works.
taps back into his like behind enemy lines character, maybe.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, he's still got it in him though. He's still got that dog in him. The villain Null actually means to fuck in Swedish.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know why that's in here, but I thought it was funny.
Interesting.
The only other thing, where is it? So do you guys remember like the weird like release schedule that this movie had? So it was originally supposed to get released this month, October 2024, right? But then it got bumped all the way up to July 12th of this year. And then after the strike, it got pushed back again to November before landing back on its original release date, which was this October.
The fuck?
All over the place, really.
That's kinda weird.
right?
Yeah.
That is
just
weird.
jumping around. This is like the least interesting trivia I've seen for any movie as of late, by the way. Which is perfect for this movie to accompany it. Let's talk, Dave.
Okay.
I was positive that we would get out of this and I would at least know that like you didn't enjoy this movie. Because there are, Dante, you can agree with me on this. There's plenty of movies that have been decent to okay this year that Dave has been like,
Breaking
this was
down,
the
yeah.
worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So I was mind blown.
I've only seen like 4 bad movies this year, so I don't know where we're going.
And I
with
think we've rated every one of them way higher than you.
Yeah.
You're the critic.
that. Okay.
I would argue you're the most critical one of all of us on movies here.
Sure.
Where'd you put Madam Web?
It's like 4th worst of the year for me.
There we go.
Also seen like
Says
a
it
third
all.
of the movies that you guys have seen.
No, I get that, but like
I exclusively will.
you stand out for being like hurtful on movies.
Well, like I usually judge a movie before I see it. So like if I know I'm not gonna like it, then I generally don't see it. Like other than like if it's a comic book movie and it kind of ties into a universe of movies that generally I'm gonna want to see, I'll see it even if I think it's gonna be bad.
So where does this one land? Did you make your mind up before you walked in?
It was like very middle of the pack, I think, for the year so far. I think I had it like 16 or 17 out of like the 34 that I've seen.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just was very confident that of like the taste that you've shown with movies, that this would be one that you were like, yeah, that was really bad.
I mean, not a lot of the movie really stood out as like spectacular, but also nothing was really bad about it.
Here's my thing, and this is where I want to start my gripe with this movie. That is one of my biggest issues with this movie. I hate movies that are just like that makes a movie insignificant. Like it's the most middle of the road, made me feel very little to nothing. Versus like I will rate a Madam Web higher because regardless that it was a terrible fucking movie, it strived to be so terrible that I appreciated it and like was able to giggle at it. This movie just like it strived for mediocrity, and we'll talk about like the way it finishes itself off, because like it's also like so self-indulgent, and I can't tell if they're aware or not.
We'll have to elaborate on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I just thought like top to bottom, it had like some of the worst acting performances I've seen this year. I thought that Venom and Tom Hardy were funnier in the other 2 movies together than they were in this movie personally. Like there was nothing from a comedic standpoint that really stood out to me throughout this film. And if this movie doesn't have the humor, I think that altogether it's ends up just kind of missing. The only thing that saves this movie for me is the 3rd act, I think, is the strongest of the whole film. Like easily, which rightfully so it should be. Like your culmination of everything. But like up until that point, I just wasn't very impressed.
I mean, I think the third act was definitely like the best, and I thought the first act was generally all right. I do agree that like I think the whole middle of the movie was just incredibly boring and kind of insignificant, just traveling from one area to the other. You got the introduction of that just hippie family that was just kind of overstayed their welcome throughout the movie, which like they were fine like to add for a little bit, but then just they kept coming back and back and back.
Well, I think that like there's characters like that really the only purpose that the character serves is a plot device for them to use at some point during the film to get themselves out of shit. Like they don't add anything to the story, and they're literally just there to advance like a scenario that they shouldn't be able to get out of.
They obviously they were there to help Eddie and Venom move from point A to point B, and just served as like people that needed to be saved at some point.
Yeah,
That's
like
kind of
I think that a large chunk of this movie for me was just them adding convenient stuff into the script to make it like write themselves out of things to a point. Should we just, in order of time, like do you want to rip spoiler and just talk freely here?
Yeah.
So I gave this a thumbs down. Like it's not a recommend for me. I don't know where you guys are at as far as before we get into.
I'm recommending it.
I want to hold my breath at this point. Like if
Dave's kind of a thumb in the middle.
If this whole Spider-Verse universe leads to nothing, then I do not recommend it. But you know, if this story leads into something else that hopefully Sony can build upon, then yeah, it'll be a recommend. Like I didn't mind the movie.
There's in a hypothetical world, I understand what you're saying. With the evidence I've been given, there's no evidence to show me that they can carry out any type of proper execution to make this mean anything. In addition, like Tom Hardy is like, it's called The Last Dance. He said that he thinks that he's done what he can with the Venom character and he's moving on from it. So I think it leaves a lot of questions as to where they can take this to advance that story. And I guess like we'll get into it now. So we have a 2 recommends and a not recommend. I think that might be my first like not recommend of the year, possibly.
I'm sure I could find one if I looked.
Okay, do that. Go back and watch all get us some views.
No.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Spoiler.
Thank you, Dante.
Taste.
Where do I want to start with this? Okay, the very beginning of the movie. Let's talk about the timeline stuff, right? It's not in the Tom Hardy verse because he was in it and then he got pulled out.
I guess that's a question that I have. I was confused as to the whole like portal thing in and out.
So it's confusing because the post-credit scenes have been confusing because he gets dropped into the world in the end of Venom 2, right? And then in the beginning or the post-credit of, I think, No Way Home, you see him get pulled out. And then they retread it again where he gets pulled out. They just go back to the point where he's in the universe, but he gets pulled out of the Tom Hardy in Avengers universe and he gets pulled back into the other one, which there isn't a Spider-Man in currently. Because they're talking about the Avengers and the guy's like, so you're telling me there's a purple guy and like,
yeah.
So they're very much in that Avengers universe, but then they get pulled back to his normal universe, which does not have a Spider-Man.
Because then he gets pulled back to the universe where none of that exists.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So like they had a plan to pull him in, but then that fell apart behind the scenes. So in this movie, they just pulled him back.
Yeah, I think that this just goes to like, I guess that's what happened. It just seems like the biggest waste of fucking time that they dangled. They basically used it because that's how they were. Was that the trailer before or the post credit before or after the J. Jonah Jameson comes on the screen and is like, he's Spider-Man, right? Like Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But that was all in the same post credits, I'm pretty sure, right?
That was the end of the movie. And then the post credit thing, I think, might have been the Venom.
Was the Venom thing. Yeah, it was the biggest nothing. Like we just did it to drum up some conversation about our movie to then dangle the carrot that we might get the potential crossover. And then I mentioned the thing about Tom Holland potentially being involved in a Venom film down the line, for that to just get ripped away in a minute of this movie, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, because now I just feel like none of that's going to happen.
And the only other thing I think, looking at the Spider-Verse aspect of it, is by Tom Hardy leaving, the way you continue Venom to me is I wouldn't mind seeing a freshly cast Venom integrated into like Tom Holland's world. But I'd almost say rather they do it like they did with Homecoming for Spider-Man, where like skip all the like world building stuff and like the preamble and just like get right to he's already Venom, you know, or already integrated. Like I just don't need to see a dude go to space or whatever they want to do to try and tell me how Venom got there. Just assume that I know who Venom is and make it part of the universe.
I mean, I feel like they also, I mean, to kind of go against it doesn't prove anything, but to go against what you're saying is I just the way that this movie ends in New York City also kind of feels like they're leading you down that road where, you know, Venom will, you know, eventually find Eddie Brock again and then boom, be in New York with Spider-Man.
Is there a possibility they're killing off the Sony Venom to then sell it off to Marvel?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Where like if you're
it's like they kind of like end their road here so Marvel can start it fresh.
But and I don't want to jump all the way to the end stuff now because there's just so much more to talk about before we get there. But like the post credits for this then would also it's a very confusing ending. I guess
the post credits were even more confusing.
Yeah, like I think the end of this movie and then the post credits.
Because I thought the post credits would give you some like kind of resolve on either conclusion or you know, hope of a continuation, but it just kind of was like nothing.
They didn't, yeah.
The post credits showed you that Venom was technically still alive.
They didn't show you Venom's alive.
Yeah.
Oh.
The little black symbiote that he put on the coin that they collected from the bartender was the vial that the cockroach was going into.
It had electricity. It was the one that the girl crushed.
No.
Then why did it have electricity?
Yeah, it was definitely the one that the girl crushed.
Yeah, there were sparks coming off of it.
Yeah,
I'm 100%. If we're both saying it.
Yeah.
I don't know that it was the one the girl, but she was the only one that had electrical stuff, and that one definitely was sparking.
Yeah.
So there's that. The going back to like the plot stuff that like just doesn't make a ton of sense to me as far as it's only there to either get them out of a jam in the story or to just progress things for whatever reason. First of all, like the family, the rocket launcher thing, like stuff like that. It's like it's a funny little gag, I guess, is what you're going for, and like a humorous
I
moment.
like the family. I think the whole like coming back with the rocket launcher was like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah, like it didn't like he that rocket launcher was already shot. He would have had to reload it.
I don't think he knows how to do that.
That's a problem. Yeah. Also, like, I feel like this movie was an hour and a half long, and they were like, this isn't long enough. We need to add some stuff. And they were like, well, what if we do a full song like that adds nothing to the movie whatsoever? It's just him driving down the road, and it's a good gag for us to have Venom sing. And then also the Mrs. Chen dance number.
Yeah.
Funny. Like she steals she's the best part of the movie, like her and Venom together, I think, where like one of the actual funny parts of the movie was when they see each other in the casino. Like I thought that was cool. But the dance number, completely unnecessary other than to fill time. And then secondly, from a plot standpoint, this is the same Venom that jumped off of a fucking plane because he was so afraid of that thing coming after him.
And now he just goes full form because he knows it's gonna come. He
knows it's gonna come. He goes full form with a woman who he cares about. Like he likes Mrs. Chen.
Yeah.
And is like, yeah, we don't care. We're gonna do this to have a dance number in
that was frustrating. I mean, that was probably the most frustrating example of that. But there was like two or three other times where like it's like, all right, you're away from the monsters, like, and then he just fully transforms, and it doesn't necessarily serve a purpose that you need to transform fully in the moment, and then now you're bringing this monster back to you again. It was
the other plot thing that didn't make a lot of sense that would just seemed like another way to get them out of the jam is like, so the blonde doctor, right, who I think had the worst performance in this whole movie. I just want to get that out there. I thought she was her first line of the movie about the cockroaches, I was like cringing at how poorly delivered the lines were. And like her whole character was just like expose explaining stuff about the movie for you aloud. For like
it was
the
almost
people
like a
who-
narrator without a narrator.
Yeah, like it was her. The way she read it was like she was reading a narration, and then like on top of it, the things that she was saying aren't normal people things. It was literally just like you're reading a book, and it's the parts between the dialogue, so that you can get like the what people are thinking, like context, you know. But so she's the one who's like, you know, like part of science is sacrifice, and like doesn't want to kill Eddie Brock or Venom, right? Like so her character is the one that seems to be protective of the symbiotes. It felt really out of place to me with no explanation that the other girl with the Christmas ornament was the one who went down and decided to attach herself to Venom to free him.
So I stepped out to run to the bathroom during that, and when I came back and I saw that like she's the one that transformed into Venom, I was just like, this movie was giving you hints that she was going to try and kill him so that she could save her family.
Yeah.
Like, because that was like, I don't know, the emotion that they were giving you.
Like when they first talked to the other symbiote and she was like scared and she was like, "Have you called your family yet?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah. No, I get that.
So I was kind of confused as to exactly what happened in that
No,
scene.
there was no explanation. She literally like so there's a couple things. They talk about how Venom is deteriorating because he's not attached to Eddie Brock anymore, which I thought was weird too, because all the other symbiotes are not attached to anything, but they're not deteriorating. The only one that's deteriorating is Venom. Why is that? I just thought like that could have been explained in some way or another, because it didn't add up to why you have a room full of symbiotes that haven't been attached to anything for who knows how long that are fine. But this one that's had a source, like something it's attached to, right? That is deteriorating. I just would have liked a little layer of explanation to that. But then she's the one who is like, okay, like send it down, which that contraption doesn't make a ton of sense to me too, because they would have them up in the room that they're looking at them, and then they would send them to the floor below, but then they would just walk to the floor below to go look at them again. And they did that more than once in the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought was like, well, why not just keep them on the floor?
Yeah.
They're on. That's really fucking weird. But then, like, so you know what's like they just show her put it to the room downstairs, and then she goes down and looks at it, and you kind of like, in my head, I was like, what? But she has no attachment to Venom. Like, she's not the one who has shown any care to, like, she's interested in the science of it.
Yeah.
But, like, to you guys' point, like, she was also concerned about it coming and, like, killing everybody and destroying the planet. So why is she the one who, like, there's just no moment that made her, like, change her mind. All of a sudden, she just took Venom and put it on it to get it back to Eddie. Like, it couldn't even communicate with her. So, like, how did she...
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's where I go to. The only reason they did that is because it was the only way to get Eddie out of the situation that he was in.
That is a fair point, because, like, you know, when he's like in the cell or whatever, I'm sitting there wondering, like, all right, how is he gonna get back to Venom? And that did feel kind of cheap.
Yeah, it's just like a easy. There's just a few of those points in the movie where I was like, this is just kind of an easy, like, way out of it, you know, that they wrote, and it's fine, like, because it's not your like premiere like superhero movie. Like I get it, but like it's just gaps that I just kind of broke the movie a little bit for me.
Also, kind of just going back into that scene, because obviously I stepped out, so I just missed a little bit. But I walked back in, and like the Strickland, I think was the character's name, the general guy,
Yeah.
is walking with Eddie right behind him, and they walk towards the scientist, and they have that conversation. And he's like, you know what, screw it. He just turns around and like shoots Eddie like right in the chest. He's like, cool, we're done with this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That was just kind of like, it seemed very impulsive. I knew what like the stakes like that were at play.
And I
like,
think he was just so at the end, like he had watched too many of his men die, is what you're supposed to believe, and he's just like, fuck this guy, kind of.
Well, there was also like that phone call just before where he had complete control over the program. So I think it's something he always wanted to do, and it just got to the point where now he can make the decision to do it.
Can I just interject too? Because I've pulled up now 3 different articles, based on the post-credit scene. So, what makes this scene particularly confusing is that Juno Temple's character ends up breaking another vial with a symbiote inside of it, and that turns her into a symbiote that seems to be Agony from the Marvel comics. However, this is not the same broken vial. Instead, this seems to be the vial that held the fragment of Venom that Strickland retrieved at the Mexican bar. and the symbolism of like the cockroach was to kind of connect what Juno Temple's comments were like towards the beginning
so
of the
I
movie.
understood that part.
Was that the cockroach next to the vial is to assume that like cockroaches have done for millions of years, Venom will survive.
So I understood the cockroach reference, but even you explaining it there, like if it's like one of the more confusing parts of the
It
movie,
still doesn't explain why is there a lightning bolt coming out of the vial then.
Well, and I would just say it's not a good post-credit if it left confusion.
Yeah.
As to like it's supposed to excite you for things to come, not be like, was that Venom or is Venom, you know what I mean? Like that's not, it's fine. Because I got the cockroach part because that was the worst line delivery of all time.
It was pretty bad.
I could never forget that.
Yeah.
Like that very beginning line that they didn't decide like, hey, can we redo that with some like level of emotion? Because you don't even seem smart. You're like you just like you read that on a Snapple cap.
And just like for continuity purposes too, like so they have that really weird awkward conversation where the guy's like standing at the driver's side window, obviously like checking to make sure she's the doctor and they know each other. I'm
trying here.
But then the camera zooms out to like the top to watch the car then drive away, and there's just nobody standing next to the car anymore, and like there's a guard on the other side just like standing still.
Yeah, he was already done with that conversation. Like, okay. He got the fuck out of there. He's like, this
lady talking about cockroaches. What the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck is she on? So a part I did like, I liked the underwater like sequence where they're going through like the downriver thing and like the military guys are chasing them through the water. I thought that in like just even seeing like the symbiote like trying to catch back up and like attach itself, I thought that was probably outside of I think I might have even enjoyed that scene visually and just like felt more at stakes than some of the symbiote stuff at the end did. Because the symbiote stuff at the end, to a point, felt like, you know, like a gripe of the Marvel movies is like the way to make it feel more level when you have an Avengers movie is you just have a bunch of like faceless, like sub bad guys or like putties that are trying to attack them just to give them stuff to beat up. Like that felt a little bit like the symbiotes. They got dumbed down to a level that like I didn't truly feel most of their powers because they just got torn apart.
There were
like,
some of them you didn't get to feel their powers at all.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it almost just made a lot of those like symbiotes feel like wastes.
They were all throwaways.
You had the like the Shape of Water looking guy, which was the detective from the second movie.
Didn't even look like
to
him anymore. Really.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like
also, if he could break out so easily, because he just breaks right through the glass, no problem. Like I was wondering the whole time they would lower that shield. Why didn't he ever try to break through the glass? He never hinted at wanting to break out of the glass. Like it feels like once they lowered down those shields, he could have escaped many a time over and just opted not to until that moment.
No.
And then I'm also just so confused in terms of like, did he have a symbiote in him throughout the entire second movie?
No. When they brought him to the lab, they paired him with the symbiote to bring him back to life.
Because when he died at the end of the second movie, he's laying there on the top of the church. His eyes start to glow blue, and he just says monsters. Like,
yeah,
no idea. Like, I'm so lost as to like.
I just feel like between these movies, like looking at those post credits with the Marvels, like the No Way Home stuff and things like that. Like they have ideas, and I'd also wonder where Andy Serkis wanted to come back and direct the third one, if that's something that he had an idea for, and then you have a whole new director come in on the third film, and it takes away from the continuity that he would have been setting up from 2 to 3.
I mean, yeah,
if that's part of where that kind of obstacle comes from,
and you kind of like, I don't know, at least like you set up a big bad in this movie with Null.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, like the bad guys for this movie were just like faceless fucking spider monster looking dudes. Like they were just henchmen kind of.
No.
So speaking of bad guys, there's two. So the Null one I think is interesting because they did nothing with him.
Right.
Like he was just a nothing character to the movie. To where you have a lot of questions around what you're gonna do with that character. Now, the fact that they say he came before the universe, right? It like, would that would you assume he can be across like the multiverse then?
I just took it as like he's somebody who lives outside the universe, like in like that just nothing, like that blackness, like where
I'm just saying, like, is that an easy way to get this into the Spider-Man universe?
Is he the new Jonathan Majors?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you get like a post credit of him. So like this is some of where the movie's confusing, because you have like finality that you're supposed to get out of this with like the last dance and like the outcome of like Venom being like separated off and like killed, right? So, but then you end the movie with such an open-ended thing of like, well, the villain's still alive, but it's like, well, your main protagonist is not, and you've left nothing to me from what you guys have talked about in the like press run to make me think that we're revisiting this in any way. And we haven't even talked about financials. It made $8.5 million on opening night last night, and that's the lowest of any of the movies so far. And it's not to say, and none of the other two movies have been necessarily hits. Like they've performed okay. Like I think they've mostly broken even. So that's not a great sign either to tell me we're going to keep progressing along with this. The one other bad guy question I had: do you guys recall the room with all the TV screens that sent the order out to the general there? Who were they? Like we never another plot thing that was just there to send a guy after Eddie Brock, but then we never know who those people were in the room. We don't know what their purpose is to anything. There was no answers given. There was not even a hint. Like that could have been a post-credit, like one of them turning towards the screen, so we at least knew who they were. Yeah, like, or like what they're doing there. Because if we get a fourth one, we'll never see those people again. And they were literally just there for one scene to set up the arc of the movie.
It'd be so dumb to have this be the last dance and then make a fourth one, though.
But that's what seems where... It'd be even dumber to have these post-credits and then have a movie called The Last Dance and then not have a fourth one.
I foresee that if Sony can get their act together and start putting some stuff together, that Venom comes back in like, I don't know, like 6 years or something like that, after you've kind of started to set up a couple of things. Maybe he comes back.
Okay, but that's reliant on, and I do want to give props to Sony because the year they're about to put in with Madam Web, this movie, and then Craven, just dropping those three in a year is like an incredible move to be like, we're so confident that we can just put anything out that we're just like, yeah, Madam Web's terrible. Throw it out there. Venom, our most successful, I guess, like superhero franchise, but not super successful still. And then let's give Craven a shot. like props to them on that front. But I can't see being like optimistic even if they were to come back 6 years from now. And like, do you see the way Tom Hardy moves? Like the way he was walking in this movie,
like kind of like old man.
Oh, he looked like broken.
Yeah.
And like in a way, it's like I get he's supposed to be walking through like the desert and he's barefoot and stuff like that. But like he looked like he had a broken back the way he was walking through the entirety of this movie. I thought that was pretty funny to watch. So the only other thing I had on it was the thing I was talking about where I'm like, I can't tell. Do they know that these movies are bad, or do they think that they've made like fantastic film? Because that montage to end this movie would make me believe, like, I think that they think that this,
like people love this.
Yeah, like this was like an epic, because this, okay, so like the one thing I did enjoy is realizing pretty quickly into this movie, and I like the pivot. So Michelle Williams didn't return for this, which I think was probably a smart move on her part. She was like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an actual real actress and I've done this now for a couple movies. I'm out. So I like the idea of like the true love story and the romance is Venom and Eddie Brock. And I thought that, like, while I didn't think they were necessarily as funny as they've been in other movies, I did like their chemistry. Granted, it's great, it's a CGI thing coming out of his back, but like it meshes really well. And like the conversations with himself, I think all feel pretty authentic and like they don't feel forced necessarily, you know? So I liked like their like the whole love story. I did think another strong part of the movie was like realizing that they're gonna separate. You know, like, and we were building to that moment. You knew it was going to happen the whole movie, but I thought they were able to pull some emotion again out of like a CGI thing coming out of his back to where you felt bad. Like you're like, oh, they love each other, you know. But that doesn't mean that like these movies are good to the point where you deserve like a minute-long montage with Adam Levine singing.
Here's to the ones that we love.
So, do you guys think that was supposed to be a joke? Or do you think that they genuinely were like, we need to give this character the proper send-off?
I think it was a little bit of both.
I don't know if it can be both.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, well, other movies have done this. So, like, since this is the end of our trilogy, we should do it. But then they put it together and they're like, oh, God, is this serious?
I think they sat around the table, like, clapping and high-fiving, like, yeah, boys, we did it.
Yeah, like we got to we got to the end of these 3 movies and we worked so hard. And, like we've put out, like, classics. And it's like,
I also think it's funny, like, somebody pointed out that, like, more than half of that montage was from that movie.
Yes. Yeah, it was all from the 3rd movie.
Yeah.
Which is more ridiculous to be like, we didn't just watch this an hour and a half ago.
Yeah. It's like, no, wait, that's still fresh in my brain.
I remember that part. Yeah. Oh, wow, I remember that part too. What was do you guys happen to know what was like the highest Rotten Tomatoes score, I feel like, for any of the 3 of these movies? I imagine like 55% is the highest like the first one got, and then the second's probably like 48%, and then this one's in like the 30s or something.
I'm still saying that this one's the highest one out of all 3.
That's an opinion. But what is Rotten Tomatoes' opinion?
They should share.
First one got a 30, second one got a 57, third one got a 35. So far.
Okay.
So, I like this so far.
Let There Be Carnage is easily the highest one, and I probably think it's the worst out of all 3.
I think it's the best because I think Woody Harrelson bought in so heavily into the role, and like between him and Tom Hardy buying in so heavily and just like truly like just acting through it, I thought his character's more enjoyable than any of the characters you get in this movie. And I think that's why it ends up getting the higher rating, probably, is like he's just a stronger villain than you got in this.
Is he?
Yeah.
I mean, you had literally you got one fight out of him. You got to see him escape the prison, which was a really cool scene. It's probably the best scene in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And then just nothing up until just this fight in the
so
cathedral.
I'm not just talking about the fight though. I think just like when he was on screen,
I mean, yeah,
it was
him as
enjoyable.
Cletus was like a kind of sinister dude.
Yeah, like I just thought he played the role. He's Woody Harrelson, like, so I'm not shocked that he played the role phenomenally. But I just think that those are the reasons it gets rated that highly, is because despite the movie not being that strong, their performances are very strong. I also think in the second one, Michelle Williams, for that matter, was very strong in that movie too. And I think when you get like a few credible acting performances, where this movie, I think you have Tom Hardy and then everybody else. I don't think anybody else's performance in this movie was great.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to hear where you guys are selling me on this, like being so great. Like, give me the positives.
There's so many negatives now. That's all I can fixate on. But I don't know. I really liked it. I love the Venom character. I liked watching him, jump in and out of like the other animals and stuff, like the horse scene, like whatever. We saw that in the trailer, but it was still fun. Really, it was just all Venom. I mean, I can agree with you that the rest of the acting in this movie wasn't really anything spectacular, but I still enjoyed it. I think I also wasn't looking at it in as much of a critical sense as you were.
Well, I would argue we talk every week about movies, so like part of the gig is trying to be somewhat like critical in there.
Yeah, no, this one I just sat down and just enjoyed it for what it was.
Well, can I ask you guys, do you think I'm wrong on the fact that like the worst thing a movie can be is just kind of there? Like this wasn't the worst thing I've seen this year. Wasn't anywhere close to good though in my mind. So all it is just like a movie I'm gonna watch once, and
then
I
forget about.
will never want like none of the three of these movies, unfortunately, are movies that like I would throw on in the background even, and just kind of have on.
And those are the perfect background movies.
No,
Where
because
you
like it's
kind
not
of
like
you know what's happening, but it's not something that you need to stop what you're doing, pay attention. Like
there's so many movies though that I would rather have on in the background, and this is not even near the like list.
Damn.
Like that's kind of my thing. Like it's just not even it's just a movie that exists to me, and I think that that's the worst thing it can be. Like I said, I just would rather a movie like this be like, hey, for the most part, we've gotten poor reception to our other two movies, and be self-aware to that, and just go so far off the fucking deep end that it's like funny in how crazy it's deciding to be because it's just unleashed and doesn't care at all, or find a way to make a good movie out of it rather than just kind of falling somewhere in the obscure fucking middle,
No. I think they thought they had a good movie though.
Well, that's where I get back to that montage. Says to me that they thought that they made like a masterpiece, like the perfect send off to this character.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'm interested in as we get further away from this movie. Can you guys really quickly pull up box office projections? I just want to have an idea what it was supposed to make this weekend. But I just kind of where they decide to go from this movie, I think is interesting. Like the post credits is like one of the most interesting aspects of this, not because they were good post credits, just because like the movie's supposed to have finality and they left us with open endings. So like, where are they going to take this? How do they spin it off? Does that girl come back as the main symbiote now? Kill me if it happens. Although looking at her, am I right, guys?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird just, seeing Venom in a Ted Lasso spinoff.
Yeah, I was informed that 2 people from Ted Lasso were in this. I had no idea. Neither did Dante.
By the way, where were you
when?
last night?
He was in the theater.
Like our theater?
Yeah,
He was sitting right next to me.
There wasn't a seat next to you.
There was
there
two
was
seats next to me.
there was the handicap like spot and then the seat. So there was technically a space between me and Lenny, but I was still like right the next seat over from Lenny.
Nah.
Yeah. yeah. I was making
You got
fun
up
of-
and went to the bathroom.
You
so,
walked
like
by him,
you
yeah.
walked by me.
Nah.
Yeah. He was wearing a funny hat. That's probably why I didn't recognize him.
Nah, it never happened. You just showed up outside afterwards.
Do we have the estimated box office?
I'm seeing a projection of worldwide 180 million.
I think
Opening.
27.3 million in the first 2 days is what I was looking at, maybe. I'm not really seeing much in projections, just 8.5 million, I think, last night.
So I'd say first weekend's going to do 20 million off of an $8 million opening night. Like, I feel like 20 to 25 million is probably where it lands. I imagine the movie cost about 100 to make.
Probably.
Before we get out of here, Dante, just on the note of where you were sitting in the theater, did you fucking hate those people who were sitting to your left as much
They
as I
were
did?
talking very loudly.
Yeah, full conversations. Not
Yeah.
like not a care in the world to the fact that they were in a movie theater with other people.
It was really annoying.
Yeah, I just caught myself like I didn't want you to think I was looking at you because I would just hear them and I would just stare to my left and be like, "What are we doing over here, dude?" Like you guys are just chatting.
All right, I do have some numbers. So they were looking to open up to 65 million domestic and 100 million overseas, where the first Venom movie opened up to 80.2 million in 2018. And the second movie opened up to 90 million.
So the second one up.
Yeah. And they're looking to do even less than both of those with this week's this movie's opening weekend.
I mean, maybe 20 is light, but like 8 million for today or for yesterday. What do you think they do? Like another 10 today? Like how much more is the audience coming out for Friday night for this movie?
I think more people go out on Friday and Saturday night.
Of course.
I'd say it could probably at least touch 30.
Okay. Yeah, it's fair. 22 million over the weekend.
I mean, like we were looking at box office for Terrifier. They did 8 mil their first night, and then they have 41 for their opening weekend.
Yeah, I don't think that we can compare these.
I just meant from a numbers standpoint.
And it's crazy because you say the numbers of Terrifier, and those numbers are super impressive.
Yeah, well, there's also a
comparing
difference
it-
between a $2 million budget and a $120 million
Well, that's
budget.
my point, right? Like, where
Yeah.
it's like, well, you're saying one of these is up like, well, this made $8 million day one. It's like, well, yeah, they quadrupled their budget in the first day of coming out. This movie needs to do, 200%, like 200 times its budget, or 200 times the first day to make
Right.
its money back.
I wasn't comparing them. I was just saying they both opened at 8 million.
Yeah.
So based on that trend, maybe Venom could see 40. Still a flop, but
Who wins in a fight, Venom or Art the Clown?
yeah, Venom's whooping that ass.
No, dude.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Art's taking a chainsaw to that ass. Art's gonna deep freeze that motherfucker, and he ain't gonna be moving, dude.
Nah, no chance.
All right, rankings. Dave, you already said where you fell middle of the list for you.
Scheiße.
Yeah, 3 stars. I think it was like 16.
3 stars. Okay.
Crapola.
Dante, what'd you?
I'm gonna need you to go first because I just realized I never ranked this.
All right, I gave it 2 stars. And I have it at 67 out of 84.
We're gonna go 3 stars, 27th.
You boys are coming up at 100 movies.
16 away, baby. Almost there.
Lenny's a lot closer than me. I took some time off.
You're at like 81, though, right? Or 82?
What are you at?
84.
I thought you were way more than that.
No, I'm at 84.
Oh.
All right, let us know what you guys thought out there. Who's right? These two guys are me. Probably me, I have to imagine, for a majority of you out there. Did the timelines make sense? Which universe, which multiverse are we in now? Let us know. Where does Venom go from here? And are you Venom?
We
are
are Venom.
Venom.
I'm a cockroach.
What the
No.
fuck?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And if you're Venom or a
Smack you with that shoe.
cockroach, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe right down below in the video. Until next time, guys, we're out. Peace.
I really am, and I've been down to the bottom of every bottle. These 5 words in my head scream, are we having fun? Yeah, yeah.